There's no time like the present for a tour, right? Let's get to it. We need to look at dahlias, folks. Now, the reason we're doing that now is not because like this part of the garden is totally fine-tuned like I had hoped it would be before I sort of showed you this tour, but because it's going to start raining in a couple hours here, and it's going to rain for like 3 days. So now is the best time to do this before everything starts like really falling over. So let's go take a look at the front part of the house off the patio, specifically the dahlias, and see where else we go. So almost every tour that I do here starts at the front door here. And I thought we'd just take a quick look at the birch trees that are in pots. We potted these up earlier this year. They're doing really well. Now I will say that the James Britannia that I put in here sort of started flagging a while ago now, and I cut it fully back, but we haven't had a lot of rebloom. Now the blue zinger carex that's in here actually looks great, and I'm totally fine with the way that looks right now. The birch trees have grown like a lot. They are, as we predicted, sucking up a lot of water. I water them pretty much every day, but so far so good on those. And you guys have seen this front planter recently. The only thing to note about it is that the banana just keeps getting bigger and bigger. It is now, those leaves are now up to the roof of the house there on this section of the house. And it's just a big monster, and of the best kind. Other things in this container that are doing really well, including, this is such a nice verbena. This is Superbena Sparkling Amethyst. And we'll start talking about dahlias here because this is a new dahlia for me. This is called Melody Pink Allegro. It gets about, I want to say like maybe 24 inches tall. And I just think it's a really nice one for a large container. The flowers almost have sort of a lotus shape to them, kind of pink to very sunset colors actually. I just deadheaded this the other day, so it's down a few blooms, but it's been blooming right along, looking great. A couple new plants. I actually did pick up some flowering cabbage to do a little bit of fall things as long as I saw them. And I have 2 new hydrangeas to add. Proven Winners Color Choice Shrubs sent these over. It's pufferfish, which came, it's just budding out now. It was fully cut back. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with that. I'm sure it'll do just fine. And then this one is Invincible Lace. It's a lace cap, which I'm really looking forward to. So we'll get those in the ground here shortly. Okay, here is the front border. We've got all the big dahlias blooming now, and you know, everything. You've seen some of this before. You saw the window box, by the way, the Euphorbia. You might have seen the video where I transplanted some Euphorbia in there. Everything's looking, I think, great. So let's talk dahlias here. So this first guy right here, this is Penn Hill Dark Watermelon. Maybe my favorite big dinner plate dahlia. Got another one down here. It's all these Penn Hills. You can kind of tell the Penn Hill series because they always have these sort of stripy petals. Just beautiful, and it kind of ranges from sort of fuchsia to magenta to pink with some little yellows in there. Up here is its cousin. This is Penn Hill Watermelon, which is enormous. Normally only the first flowers are big, but I'm still getting like 11 to 12 inch flowers on this thing. Also, you can also tell it's the tallest dahlia that I have, so probably 7-8 feet tall. So, I mean, obviously you need a really good staking system, which mine is not great here for this one. I've just been kind of tying it into the trellis there a little bit. So plan on a sturdy stake. This is Thomas Edison. This is probably just the best purple dahlia that I've ever grown. And it's not super tall. It's probably not even quite 4 feet tall in this place. And it's just got this beautiful depth of color, just gorgeous. And honestly, this size of flower, which is maybe 6 inches across, is a lot easier to manage in a bouquet than like a 12-inch Penn Hill watermelon. I think this is Sea Breeze Clemonus, and it keeps blooming. and it's beautiful. There's not a lot of flowers on it, but you get a few little reblooms in there. So some of the dahlias that go underneath the window box tend to get obscured a little bit, but down here we've got a beautiful labyrinth, just looking great, such a good performer. Here is a very much sort of crushed breakout, which is not showing any of its pink color because it's not seeing any light. And this is Cafe au Lait, maybe Cafe au Lait Royal. I'm not fully sure, to be honest with you. I mean, it's supposed to be Cafe au Lait, but I think some of these darker pink bits on it, I don't know. I wouldn't say, I can't say either way for sure. Here's another breakout coming in here, and there's one that actually I see tipped over here. Around here, this is another, oh, we've got some more Thomas Edison popping in here. This is two beautiful flowers next to each other, same plant. This is an aging one here with the petals getting a little twisty. This is Sierra Glow is what this is. I bought this as Peachy Salmon Dinner Plate many years ago, prior to it receiving its real name, which is Sierra Glow. And she's a real looker too. I put all the big ones over here on this side of the house because I only have to stake them from one side then. Oh, by the way, I walked back a little bit here, but this lavender here is this Spanish lavender called Primavera, which I grew from cuttings. You might remember I did a video, I think in January, where I took cuttings. Or I think potted up cuttings is what I did. I had been growing them out already. And it worked out beautifully. I've got 2 big pots full of it. It smells amazing. It is not hardy here though. So the only way for me to continue to have this is to bring it indoors and grow it. I try to overwinter, and then it did really well growing from cuttings. So we'll probably do that again. So pretty. So that's the big dahlia side of things. But obviously, we've got a lot of dahlias growing on this side as well as many other things sort of happening in this border. So I think we'll start at the corner and, I don't know, work our way around. First of all, I just want to point out this kind of airy mess you see here is Verbena Bampton, grown from seed. In fact, pretty sure this one popped up here. And a lot of these have reseeded themselves around the garden, and in a lot of places, I just leave them. I have some other, by the way, this is, I think, Verbena Vanity, or just the regular Verbena bonariensis, not positive. But this Verbena Bampton is such a charming, airy plant, and I just kind of left it in a lot of places where it popped out, and I'm very happy that it reseeded itself everywhere, because now I'm just never going to start it from seed again. I'm just going to move it around the garden. It's been doing really well that way. The lime green that you see here is Jewels of Opar. Again, didn't plant that popped up from seed from previous years. It's a pretty prolific reseeder. And this Nicotiana is hot chocolate, and it's really lovely. Now, a lot of them, did at one point, have them all interspersed here throughout this border. But I've been pruning them back because I'm not going to collect more seed of it, and they look a little odd when they're just seed heads on them. But I think they'll reflower. This one seems to be showing sort of darker color on it. I think hot chocolate is a very appropriate name for it. Okay, dahlias. First of all, this beautiful creamy centered one is called Mocha Maya. It's a Kristen Albrecht who owns Santa Cruz Dahlias. It's one of her breedings, and it's really pretty. It's a really lovely one, and again, a really nice size for a bouquet. I mean, she grows a lot of things that are really meant for florists, and you can see how this would be absolutely perfect in a wedding bouquet. It's really quite lovely. All across the front here is all Crichton honey, which I've done here for several years, and Crichton honey is, I think you see pictures of this all the time of mine because it's maybe my favorite. I do have a soft spot for it. Colors on it always range from light yellow to sort of peachy orange to full salmon. And like for instance, here's one that's definitely showing more of a salmon tone, and this is definitely more of a sort of peachy tone. It's a ball dahlia. I do have these staked a little bit this year. They're just just a touch too tall not to be staked. Now, something's going on with them though. There's a lot of small little growth here at the tips, and there's some leaf curling. Oh, actually, well, that is an insect right there. I can see that. But that kind of growth is seeming a little abnormal to me. Now, I've looked into it, and I don't see an obvious sign that it's a virus. It could be a couple of things. Could be lack of water. It could be a lack of nutrients. I have not watered or fertilized this garden once this year, not once. So well, no, I lie. I noticed it a couple of days ago, and I did water these dahlias really, really well, and they're definitely going to get watered well over the next few days here. So if I start seeing new growth that looks a little bit more normal, I'll feel a little bit better about that. I also don't see similar problems to that on some of the other ones, which makes me wonder. I mean, I'm not seeing water stress issues on anything else, which makes me a little nervous on the virus side of things. But they're still flowering, they're still doing good. I'm just kind of keeping an eye on them, and I will continue to do that. In front of this, this is Wild Magic Basil. You've probably seen this exactly in this spot before. I grow it strictly as an ornamental, although it is edible, and it smells, it's the best smelling basil, and I just love the flowers on it. Now, I had interspersed here in the front, I think this is called Basket of Gold Swiss Chard. And then in between that, I had lobelia. Well, the lobelia, I tried cutting it back. It's all dried up. It gave up the ghost. Lobelia does that in a lot of places. I've usually had really good success with it, so I was a little surprised about that. And then while I was gone, the rabbits snuck in here and started doing some serious number on the Swiss Chard. So while in concept, I love the idea of the Swiss Chard in the front here, I'm going to say in practice, it didn't turn out as good as I thought it would have. I mean, it's still here, it's still beautiful, it'll be fine this year. I probably won't do that again though. In the back here, we've got, this is sort of the last vestiges. This is just the, fading blooms of the tiny tough stuff hydrangeas. There are 5 or so planted in here. And the silver plant that a lot of people ask about is Kinsley's Ghost Honeysuckle, which is a big tall vine, and I just keep twining it around itself and sort of sending it around in a circle. I'll probably have to do some pruning on it because I like it sort of in this shape. This seems like a good time too to note that particularly at this time of year, this garden is kind of wild. Things are a little rangy, they're kind of running all over each other. It is not neat as a pin, and that's how I prefer a garden all year. But particularly by this time of the year, I'm totally okay with a garden that gets, a little bit on the wild side. It's totally good with me. It might not be your taste, and that's great. And I have a lot of respect for people whose gardens are very neat and orderly. My garden's never going to be like that, and I wouldn't care for it to be like that. I do love it in other people's gardens, but here I like a little bit of wild, and I like things just on the cusp of looking like maybe nobody lives here. All right, keep going. Okay, moving on. Oh, here's a dahlia that I've been trying to grow for so many years and couldn't find it. And now I have it in my garden. This is Waltzing Matilda. It is shorter than I thought it would be, which is a wonderful thing because next year I'm going to pull it closer to the border. Single flower, first of all, nice dark foliage. Single flowers that are, I describe this as a raspberry pink red with sort of orangey apricot centers in it. And they get a little twisty and turny. They're very beautiful, in my opinion. Beyond that, we have, this is big blue salvia, started from seed in a video, started from seed too late. It just started flowering now. So little note to myself and to you that if you're going to grow like an annual salvia, start that pretty early because it needs some time, but it's tall and it looks great in the garden and it's sturdy as can be. Speaking of things, we did plant up the urn in a video and I'm very happy with it this year. So very simple planting in this urn. This is, hang on, let's get in there. Okay, so the main feature here is Bird of Paradise, which I didn't expect to flower, and I didn't really care for it to flower. I mean, it would have been fine if it did, but I wasn't growing it for that. I was growing it for the leaf structure there. Next, we've got Ascot Rainbow Euphorbia, which has been blooming all year, and the blooms are actually super charming with these cute little eyes in them, but obviously we get this great color. This is borderline hardy here. I will probably dig it out, plop it in the ground in a protected spot, and just see if it comes back. There are only 3 Tradescantias in here, Purple Heart, and thank God for that, because they get huge. And then I also have 3 of the, this is Sun Patience, is it Coral? I think it's Coral in here. And they go around the back. Those look great. And then this is Emerald Falls Dichondra, but very nicely here, we've got Princess Diana Clemonus climbing up it, which I have no problem with. It can work its way up there. So it's actually using the Dichondra as a little trellis to get up there. So I said when we planted this that I wanted something a little simple with a little bit more structure in this sort of chaotic part of the garden. And I feel like I got that with this. All right, down the road, we obviously have the Limelight behind, but this is another new dahlia for me. This is Milena Fleur. And this dahlia is probably 3.5, pushing 4 feet, and it is not staked. It is the sturdiest dahlia in my garden, and it just is producing flowers like crazy. I didn't realize it was going to get that tall, but it's just fine because it's not flopping. It's not doing anything that we wouldn't want it to do, and it's just really pretty. The little yellow flowers here, these are on this is Isla Gold tansy behind there, and this is a very yellow color in spring, but by now it just gets to be kind of a regular green. And normally I wouldn't let a tansy flower because they can be borderline invasive, which how much they reseed, but are those not like just the cutest little flowers? I've actually been saving them to stick them in little bouquets because I think they're just the cutest little flowers. So I did prune the Limelight in a video this year, and I want to show you something. So one of the things I had done then is I had told you, if we can look under here, that I was trying to encourage some new growth from the base of this, because really this is down to 3 main stems, and eventually that's not going to fly for this. Like, you want to be able to pull out old stems and have some new growth there. So there were a couple of shoots that were coming from the bottom, and I left them, and I wanted to show you the difference in size between an unpruned stem and a pruned stem. So everything up here gets cut. You guys know that I prune this really quite hard. And this is a pretty average size flower here. So if you can see my hand, I don't know how long that is, but oh, you can see all the spent flowers coming out of there. So this is, you know, like if I spread my fingers out, this is the length of my fingers. But if you look at this flower underneath here on the stem that I didn't prune, let's see. I mean, I can't even get close to showing you how big that flower is. Easily 3 times the size. So that's a little lesson in what happens on a panicle hydrangea if you're not pruning it, which is that you will get fewer but bigger flowers. And by bigger, I mean like 3 to 4 times the size, which could be a problem in terms of stem strength. But it's an interesting little experiment. And this is truly the biggest panicle hydrangea flower I've ever seen in my life. Here we've got HS First Love, which is part of that HS series that I always say I like so much. Looking great. This yellow, I think we've mentioned this in a video before, maybe it was on Instagram. This is Boom Boom Yellow. And a lot of people said that's not Boom Boom Yellow. It doesn't look right. It is. It absolutely is. It is supposed to be, I think, a little larger and a little less yellow, like a little softer yellow. This is not growing in super full sun in this spot. So it's a fair amount of sun, but not full sun. So I wouldn't judge the color of this one based on where it's planted this year, because dahlias can do different things depending on where they're planted. However, here's Jowie Winnie or Jowie Nikki. Better look it up. which might be one of the more perfect ball dahlias I've ever, hang on, let's just see if we can find a tag. I'm back. Joey Nikki. Anyway, maybe one of the best ball-shaped dahlias I have ever seen, because look at how perfect that ball is. Those petals go all the way around. It's just perfect. Pretty tall, and just the best little coloration on this. Pretty tall, but it's a keeper for sure. And we'll bend around this way, but I did want to just pause. So here we've got a combination of, again, this is this reseeded Verbena Bampton, but beyond that we've got a Thalictrum, name on screen because I don't want to say the wrong one right now. And it has these adorable little bells, and the two of those mixed together is a pretty fabulous combination, but this Thalictrum is just stealing the show. On the other side of the path, there's just a couple of things to point out. This is Creme De Cognac, and I don't know what to say about it. I'm not sure I love this sort of mustardy color, but the dark petals, you can see how when you look at it from here, it's all this sort of wine color, and then you come up here, and it's got this beautiful color. Again, not in like total full sun, so maybe the coloration's a little off, but it's also short and supporting itself. So kind of an interesting one to watch there. The silver foliage you see here is Salvia Argentia, all grown from seed this year, all new. I sort of decided that although it is biennial, some people have told me short-lived perennial, I think it looks best its first year. So even where it came back, I actually just planted a new one. And I've planted that in this spot for several years, and I still think it's just one of the best bang for your buck plants you can put in, and so easy to grow. Takes a little bit to get started from seed, but pennies for a lot of look here. This dahlia is Melody Allegro Swing. No, Allegro Melody Swing. That's what this is. And holy cow, has this been pumping out the orange flowers. First flower to bloom, first dahlia to bloom this year. Nice and short, not stake. They're flopping a little bit, but it doesn't bother me at all. And boy, is that, it's a true orange. It's a true bright orange in there, and just covered in flowers. And I, in fact, haven't even been deadheading these that much because they're just so covered in flowers that it's actually a little hard to get in there. The grass you see here is Ceslaria autumnalis, just finishing up its blooms, which are the sort of white spits there. A favorite grass of mine. Some people don't care for it, but I'm a big fan. This is a coleus that just popped up. I grew lots of coleus here last year, and this guy just popped up, and I left it. I do enjoy just letting things kind of run their course sometimes and just seeing what happens, because you can always cut it out. Just a quick moment down here. I had some Dichondra Silver Falls left, and I stuck it in the ground as a little ground cover, and so now it's playing so nicely with lambs here and ajuga. I might consider that as a ground cover in the future for other areas. So there are a couple dahlias on the back side that I want to take you to. Oh, this guy over here, guy or girl, is Rose Toscana, which I'm a little disappointed in. I don't know if it's just not in the best spot. It's nothing special to me. It's fine. It's just nothing special to me. This is Blue Fortune. I call it Agastache. A lot of different ways to pronounce that. Do it whichever way you like. It's pretty much done flowering, but you know, it still retains just a small little bit of flower. It's really it's a really good plant in the garden. I stayed away from it for a lot of years because it never came back for me. And this one might not either, but I grew this from a small pot, and look how nice it looks. I mean, even as an annual, that's a great plant. Okay, here is a dahlia that doesn't get nearly enough love. This is Nicholas. It's a really nice size, and it's got really big petals that are laid a little bit flat. Orange with this kind of pinky, just a touch of pink at the end. If you can see in the center there, like just a little bit of red right in the center. Really pretty. Happens to look, I think, very good right here next to Persicaria Orange Field, which is looking a little bit light pink now, but when it first started flowering, it was very orange. And a new plant for me, doing better in part sun to shade than it is for me in full sun, and can handle a lot of different conditions. So I'm really liking that a lot. And then here we have a Sanguisorba, whose name I can't tell you, but I mean, these flower stalks that are coming up, I just think they're whimsical, they're interesting, and they just do so much for the garden. We've come out here between rainstorms to show you something that I meant to talk to you about in the tour. So we'll splice this in here, which is corn. I don't know if you guys saw this, but standing here in the garden, I grew some ornamental corn. And I got this seed from Junk Seed, and it has these beautiful stripes on the leaves. And it does grow corn. Here's one I picked from Produce Actual Corn. Here's one I picked from a different one. Look at that pretty, beautiful purple corn on there. The problem with it is, you can see it right here, and it lost its top in this rain. The problem with it is that I didn't plant enough of it close together. So I should have put like 12 of them in this spot. Instead I put 3, one of which was eaten, another one which fell over, and then there's this one. So this is something, because look at how gorgeous. I mean, I just think that those leaves would be so pretty in the garden. And this gets kind of this pink edge on it. So this is something that I think would be beautiful growing in the middle of an ornamental garden. It's just that you have to do it right, and I didn't do it right this year. So I would recommend, if you're gonna do something like this, like think big and plant a lot of it, because I don't think it's gonna look like corn in the middle of your garden. It's gonna look like a beautiful ornamental, really beautiful foliage accent in there. And here's another one, tried and true, that just does its thing so well. Hamari Gold. This one has kind of an open center on it, and I guess they do that sometimes, but they have kind of reverse petals that sort of curl under, and so they get a little bit pointy, and it's a really nice, I mean, it's almost like a yellow with a tinge of orange to it. A really nice one. I don't know why I never put that one in a better spot, to be honest, because it's really a good performer. Here's another one of those orange field persicarias growing over here in, again, not a lot of sun, and another one of those big blue salvias. So that's it for most of the dahlias, but let's just take a little stroll down this path and make a few notes. All the big leaves that you see in here are verbascum I grew from seed, none of which are showing any signs of flowering. So I don't know what that's about, but I think I'm done with verbascum after that experiment. Oh, there's one more dahlia here. This is Tamburo. Tamburo, I think that's what it is. This is kind of, I think it's very similar to Rip City. And it's just one of those really nice, deep, dark, interesting cactus dahlias. You know, for something a little bit moodier, I think it's pretty nice. So don't look too closely at the trough container along the garage here, because I haven't watered it in a really long time. It actually looks better than it should for that. In the back behind it, though, is the same vine that I have growing in the window box. This is Acerina Joan Lorraine, and that is actually like going kind of crazy, and I sort of love how it's dripping off the light here. This Plectranthus right here is all stuff that I grew from cuttings as well. You guys saw that in a video. And the sedum is starting to come into bloom. I'm pretty sure that's birthday, maybe, or neon. Might be neon, one of those two, which has, to me, much better color than the one everyone grows, which is Autumn Joy, which I have. But you can see Autumn Joy a little bit way down there. I don't want you to look too closely at this border because I haven't been in there to weed in a really long time, and there's a fair amount of things going a little rogue in there. But here's last year's, oh, I have another one of these. I don't know if you saw it in the other bed. Here's Coffee Cups Colocasia. I grew that in the urn last year, took it out, saved it, divided it, put half of it here and half of it over there. And I really like it up here in the front of the border. Here we've got, among other things growing here, we've got the Ruby Moon Hyacinth Bean. And I do think those flowers are about as pretty as they get. Again, we're not looking closely, but interspersed throughout this garden, the purple that you see here is Angelica gigas, fabulous biennial, but in the back there, it's growing between Joe Pyeweed, which, by the way, I lost my other Joe Pyeweed this year. I didn't even know that was possible. And then it's really pretty because we've got the little lime hydrangeas are starting to get pink, and so it's kind of a really nice moment through there with those two things happening. And it's a good thing it's going to rain because I see a lot of wilting here. A lot of things could use a little bit of water. Oh, here's Autumn Joy, which, you know, it's just it's very prim and proper, right? I like the other one better. So I think this border, oh, and by the way, the climbing hydrangea is doing great. And I think we mentioned in previous videos that I'm sort of letting it come around the corner here. And it is growing up kind of across the soffit here, which is great. The goal is I'd like it to get over to the pergola there, but it's still nice how it softens this corner. About some of the containers that are here, so we should do that quickly. First of all, this is Acidenthera peacock orchid. A lot of people, when I mentioned that I was growing this plant, a lot of people have been growing for ages, and I've just been missing out. I just stuck some bulbs. For me, it's a bulb that you plant in spring in a pot, and it's now doing this. It has the loveliest scent, and it's very elegant standing up like this. Several people warned me it's a deer love it, so if you're going to grow it somewhere, keep that in mind. Not a problem here on my patio. And here's Eucomis, pineapple lily. In fact, I should probably rearrange these pots so you can see that a little better. But the pineapple lily is just looking just fabulous. Just such a fun plant. And here's my kumquat, still looking unhealthy, but this is the little pilea that I bought to stick in there as sort of a pot ground cover. I love that. So let's take a stroll up the steps. We've got another hyacinth bean right here, and some sweet peas. We're growing up that as well. And in fact, look, here's one, maybe the last of the sweet pea flowers. I have not obviously deadheaded in a while. I could collect seeds if I wanted to, but they're so pretty, and let's just smell them. Yeah, the smell, as you know, the smell can't be beat, but I don't mind it when vines jump out at you a little bit. And here's the seed pods on the hyacinth bean. Beautiful. I mean, I think those are just as beautiful as anything else. So up here on the deck, in fact, let's look at, we've got two matching containers, but let's look at this one because it's in slightly more shade and doing better than the other one is. So this is Hula Begonia, a trial plant that's new next year. This is a bicolor. Definitely doing better in a little bit more shade than the other one. This is I think it's a Dracaena. And then we've got purple bellvine growing here again. Now, if you guys remember last year, this purple bellvine went all the way across the top of this pergola. And just now is it starting to get to the point where I could do that with it, which means it's several weeks behind where last year's was. So I could still do that, but it's still a beautiful plant. I think I'll probably always grow that one because it's just really quite nice. Behind the grill here, this is Silver Umbrella Aurelia, which you guys usually see from the ground on the other side, but this is what it looks like from up on the deck, where it is currently being ravaged by bees. This is a pollinator magnet, maybe more so than almost any other plant in my garden, with the possible exception of that Angelica gigas. But the bees have just been working this thing over like crazy for days now. And that's the flower on it, and it's really quite pretty. There's a little bit of leaf curl on it. The top is in too much sun. So it's because, you know, it's growing in shade down there and it popped up here. I had no idea it was ever going to get this big. But I do love the habit over the stairs here. And then this is, I mean, these are not really exciting things here, but this is the Senecio Skyscraper that I planted last year in a video. Brought it in and overwintered it as a house plant, brought it out, and it's still looking great. And here is the sort of row of, there are 3 Limelight Hydrangeas here that are up against the deck, doing exactly what I want them to do, which is just kiss the railing. I always plant these 3 here because I want them I don't want them to obscure the view. I just want them to sort of kiss the railing. And here they are kissing the railing. They are just starting to blush up, which is really, honestly, maybe the prettiest stage before they actually get sort of too pink. But very pretty little view here off this corner of the deck. Oh, and there is one plant at the bottom of the deck I'm just going to show you quickly. This hydrangea is Hydrangea Macrophylla Let's Dance Diva. And I don't give it any protection. I don't do anything for it, and it still blooms. It's got to be blooming on new wood here. And here's the flowers. They're huge. They look great. I only really see them when I look down from the deck. They even have a tinge of purple to some of them when they first start, even though I don't treat it with anything. I don't grow a lot of Macrophylla hydrangeas, but this is a good one. And it's in a nice protected spot, but I don't do anything to protect it. So these little purple Nicotiana that you see here were not planted by me. This is another one that just self-seeded itself from the Nicotiana that I grew here, you know, near here last year. But they are beautiful little things. And I do love these moments in the garden where something just plants itself there. By the way, here's, this is Melody Pink Allegro growing in the ground, unstaked, flopping just a touch, but again, doesn't bother me at all. I think it looks fine there. There's one other dahlia I want to show you. It's a save, one I saved from last year. Zundert Mystery Fox, which I have tucked over here in the hot border. And now I haven't deadheaded it, so some of these like that needs deadheading. But it's playing so well here with all this helenium. This is helenium salsa, fuego salsa. And I love it. It's everywhere in this garden. And I'm absolutely loving how it looks. Here's sort of when the blooms are fresh. You get a little bit more red in them. But I think it's playing so well in this garden. I revamped this garden, this part of the garden this year. And that helenium is playing a big role here right now. And it's starting to look, I think, really good. But I do like working, you know, more and more I'm looking for more places to put dahlias, and I like working things like this Zundert Mystery Fox right in here. So that's the dahlia tour for this year. If you're feeling like there are fewer dahlias than other years, I sort of agree with you. It feels like that to me too, although I don't think that's the case. There's some dahlias that I can't find. Peaches and Cream, I bought that one. Apple Blossom, I know that one's in this front border somewhere. I can't find that at all. And so they probably got overgrown by something else or another plant just tucked in front of them. They might turn up yet. Maybe they're not flowering yet and they'll turn up yet. That could still be, you know, the thing with dahlias is don't stop taking care of them, and don't stop deadheading them, because they will bloom all the way till frost. Here, I mean, I've got another month and a half probably to enjoy dahlias here, and I certainly will. So maybe they'll still make an appearance, and if they do, I'll try to show those to you. But every year is a little bit different, and what I really am learning is that since I don't grow dahlias in rows, in like a, you know, in strict rows as for cut flower growing, there's a lot of factors that come into play. And like I said, I haven't fertilized anything. I mean, I worked in a lot of organic fertilizer before I planted stuff, but I have not gone back and fertilized anything at all this year once in terms of stuff in the beds over here. So, you know, maybe it just needs a little boost. You never know. The other thing I'm noticing as I walk around the garden is that this rain that's coming, we need it. So it'll be a good thing. Probably be a little cleanup to do after all that rain over several days. But hey, listen, that's what we do as gardeners, right? All right, I hope you guys enjoyed the tour. Thank you for watching, and I hope you're having a great day in your garden, and we'll see you soon.